we hadn't reached a point in our evolution to where we can handle the nature of what to do with fire.
In your state, and all this stuff is coming in it, yeah, and it's just hitting you, boom, 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 and then you've got to deal with it. So this tradition that I'm referring to, I call the Word, and it is about understanding the true meaning of character development of the mind, because that is our area of excellence here in the West. Now, a chap earlier, I can't see him here, but he was referring to visitors coming here. I'm not going to go into any detail on that, but what I am going to suggest is that most of you have an alien mind. A mind that believes it is a visitor here. That when you use the term indigenous, you're not referring to yourself. You visit nature. You visit the countryside. So if you may view the earth as dirty. So that if your measure of civilization is how far away dirt can be pushed, then you are living with an alien mind. As a visitor here, its prime objective is to get away as fast as possible, within itself or by any other mechanism. It's an infection. The Toltecs were talking about it thousands of years ago. A very famous modern Toltec called Don Miguel Ruiz wrote some very easy access Toltec books, because some of the others are very technical. So his two books that are quite well known are The Four Agreements and The Fifth Agreement. And in there he has sanitized the reference of this infection as calling it the parasite. Because it will feed off you. It will whip you and beat you into submission. It will criticize you and judge you and everyone else around you. And it is simply a reflecting entity. It will reflect upon what has been and what may come, but it can never enter now, which is where all of your experience is. So for most of you, when you go to self-development events, or when you go to workshops or things like that, people may often ask you to leave your mind outside, to come in and surrender to the process, to immerse yourself in the experience. And that is because most people's everything else is already aligned. Everything else is already working fine. It is the mind that is sticking out like a bit of a sore thumb, really, and it's become the kind of scapegoat, where people will learn all sorts of things for controlling the mind, but usually these are just coping strategies. So meditation or other silencing the mind techniques are actually coping strategies because people don't know how to deal with the rational mind itself. Today I'm going to give you the tools to heal that in less than 45 minutes. It will take you years to embody and immerse it though, but the result will be what I call integral mind or embodied mind, which is that your mind will be able to enter in seamlessly with the rest of your experience now. And some of you may have tasted that at different points in your life, and some of you may experience it now, especially some of the speakers who have a certain level of enlightenment themselves, where you start to experience sensorial mind. When the mind feels and sees in its own realm, and when it starts to adopt the shape of its thoughts, then it's becoming the substance of itself. It is no longer a disembodied, abstracted entity. But until that point, it is. And until that point, it is a problem. So, before I get onto that, excuse me, I need to do something to take a hold of this space for a moment. Now, there's 5 branches to what I teach. They are spelling and language, which we're going to look at a bit today, and understanding. I'm going to show you how to correct. You've been taught the wrong shapes and the wrong alphabet. Now what that means is, so you've got people out here trying to free their mind and heal their mind and all that sort of stuff, and they're just pouring new ideas in. They're learning new ideas, more complex terms, and it's really just creating a big maze of a mass of new words, all of them as abstracted as each other. All of them. The problem is, the framework of thinking itself is flawed and wonky. Learning new ideas is not going to correct it when the very tools of thought themselves, the alphabet itself, is flawed. If that in itself is flawed, and the shapes you've been taught to think with are flawed, then everything you build with that will have the wonkiness built in, like a Leaning Tower of Pisa. So today I'm going to give you the tools to heal that Leaning Tower of Pisa, and it is going to give you a benefit of, we'll do a little bit of spelling here, and that is, I'm going to show you a little bit about warding. Okay. So, what we're doing here today is we are rewarding. Other words you may have come across that are in the warding series are onwards and upwards. Okay? Onwards and upwards. Now we use that term for when somebody has had something, you know, they might have something go wrong with them or something happen and you'll say onwards and upwards. But does anybody know what that actually means? Onwards and upwards, toward, forward, reward, award. Okay, inward, backward, inward and yeah, backward are the other ones. So award, what is award? Well, it's actually, there are three meanings, three known meanings to ward, and you will all know them all. You might not be able to bring them to your attention right now, but they are, award is an ancient spell of protection. An ancient spell of protection. Award is also a place of safety. A place of safety. So this is when you have a hospital ward and you have a ward of state, are the two terms that you may come across. So what you'll have is a ward is potentially a place for healing, and it is also a place that may have a guardian, like a ward of state. Now I'm going to suggest to you that all those meanings are correct, and some of the warding I'm going to share with you today will provide all three of those benefits. A place of safety, a place of potential healing, and a potential connection with a guardian. I'm not going to say any more about it than that because it is not a rhetorical abstraction, it is an experience to be had. You must do the work to have the experience. Okay, so something we have forgotten is about how to ward ourselves. This is something that used to be well known, and they would use artifacts in the past. Horseshoes and rabbit's feet and things to ward off evil. And we've had that all so poo-pooed that we now have evil walking right up close to us. The chap earlier referred to beyond evil. It's not beyond evil, it is evil that we are dealing with in the world, and we have been enforced by the 50 Shades of Grey culture of ours to allow it to walk up close and whisper in our ears 24/7 without having the power or permission to keep it at bay. Now that is sovereignty actually. Sovereignty is the right and the ability to maintain your state. Your personal state. It's about understanding how boundaries work and how to maintain your boundary, which is about warding. Now we're going to look at a couple of aspects of this today. We can't do too much because it's a huge subject, but and we don't have much time. But I have to spend just a moment doing a bit of warding myself in this space. Oh, just be a second, excuse me. So I want to just say as well, we'll do a little bit of gender today. And so the things that come under the word are alphabet and language, which is spelling, sound, perception, and gender. We're going to touch a bit on each of them today if we can, but if not, I'll give you my details at the end so you can come and see some of the other work that I do or see some of the other workshops that I've done. Okay, so the sound aspect of warding is we've had a bit of that today. We've had the feminine aspect today. So there's three aspects of sound that you are familiar with. Some of it you're comfortable with, some of it you're not. So you'll be very comfortable with speech. Most of you will be able to speak quite comfortably to express yourselves. That is horizontal sound, and it is for referring to things, it's for referring to subjects. Now, speech is one aspect. Another aspect is song, so you'll all be familiar with song. Some of you may be comfortable with singing, some of you may not. All of you have the innate ability to sing beautifully if you but gave yourself the chance to move through the infancy of being a bit wonky in voice to achieving the ability that your organs are able to deliver. What is an organ, anyone? It is a musical instrument and your body is filled with them. Okay, these are organs that are in here, and that is for a reason. So we've heard today, we've heard what I call feminine sound, which is about song and words. So these are all for referring to ideas to help enlighten you, and they use words and notes. So notes are the feminine aspect of sound. I'm going to share a little bit of the masculine on this side, which is tone. Okay? Now a lot of people, when they are asked to tone, or when they start toning, they actually try singing. Or they will use song, or they will speak it like it is a word, and they will try to make it refer to something, when it can't, it's not supposed to. So actually, what we have here is, we have two poles of a spectrum. The feminine aspect of note is about music, it's about receptivity, it is about changing state by surrendering to the flow of notes coming over you. Tone is the opposite. Tone is not referring to anything. It's not for you, it's for me, or whoever the person is doing it. It is also to change state and space. They both change state and space and are a form of wording. And this is why people will often, if you're feeling bad in a space, then make some sound, make a noise, own the space somehow. For those of you who, because I know there's quite a few sound people in here today, the relationship between tone and note is called the key, which in music is the key. So when I'm using some of these terms here today, I'm using a form of language alchemy, which is I'm referring to multiple subjects at the same time, and it is intended to help your mind map experiences with ideas. Okay, so you may have come across tone and note before, and even heard of the key in music, but you may not have known that there's a direct relationship between each of them and that they exist on a spectrum. So I'm going to do a little bit of tone here, if that's alright, just in this space. You can join in if you like, you don't have to. But it may be, you just pardon me just for a moment or two. I'll start and just have to do the directions for myself. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your patience there. Something our culture has done to us is teach us that space is empty and that it's void. And it means that we ignore the value of space. We have the same expectation of ourselves, regardless of what space we enter. And yet every space we enter is different. This planet is hurtling through space at hundreds of miles an hour. The solar system is moving through even faster. Space is changing all the time, even though it looks like we're in the same room. But already we're in different space than we were in 5 seconds ago. And yet we have that same expectation to maintain 100% of capacity, perspective, and ability to act regardless of where we are. This is it's a massive disease, this, because we completely create false judgments of self and false assessments of ourselves and become overly critical because we don't accommodate for space. So for me that was quite challenging, because the tones that I can hit when I'm in my own space and state are completely different from what I can bring to bear in a group. And so when I'm entering into the space of your mind, the space of this arena, without having had any practice or preamble or having entered the space before, it's difficult for me to align with the tones and sounds that I would seek to share. So what you experienced and what happened there was the interface, the best it could be done, taking into account your space, my space, and this. So it just had to be what it was. It was enough. It was enough of a ward for me to feel like I can use the space now. So thank you. Let me just get rid of this. Okay. I actually think that at the minute for most of us, warding is something, not just sound warding, mental warding and other forms of warding, to make your space yours is a massively important thing. Massively important. Okay. So, let's get straight on with things, because I realise how short of time we are here. I don't want to keep referring to the time. So, how do you know if you've got one of these alien minds that I'm referring to? Well, if you were taught that triangles, circles and squares were basic shapes, then that is you. Okay, if you were taught that triangles, circles and squares are basic shapes, then it's you. Okay, none of these are basic shapes. None of them. One of them looks like a basic shape. Which one do you think that might be? The circle, okay. The circle looks like it might be, so you already know this. So people already know that it's not the basic shape. But it's about understanding the importance and the relevance of it, which is what we're going to cover today. So the circle looks like it's a basic shape, but it's actually not, and we'll get to that in just a moment. The other two are definitely not basic shapes. Okay, definitely not. Now, they are actually made up of one of the basic shapes. What are they made up of? Triangles and squares. What are they made up of?
Straight lines.
Straight lines, thank you. Okay, so let's get rid of these two guys here. So the point of these is that these are not natural shapes. You do not find them in nature on this planet. You will find a few cubes, and you'll find circular things. We'll get into why the circle isn't a basic shape in a moment. You will find certain cubes in, I think there's one of the crystal forms is a metal square. I can't remember which one it is, a metal cube. But in general, you will not find these as basic forms everywhere and pervasive throughout nature. They're secondary or tertiary shapes. Now the point here is that if I get rid of this, and I say to you, what is that? A sun. What else?
Infinity.
Sphere. Infinity. What else? A hole in the ground. A ball. A hat viewed from above. It could be any number of things. Now, if I do this, and by the way, consider what we're doing here today. This is basic education. This is the basic education you should have had. Okay. Can everybody see that blue okay? I don't know if that was a good choice. Okay, so that is triangle, circle, square, triangle, square, 0, 1, 2, and the word orange. So that same core shape, how you think about shape and how you think about number and how you think about character are completely different. They're totally different tracks of mind. The rational mind rests upon those things, and it glorifies in its mastery of them. It loves itself for it. Most of us will have a little closet know-it-all that will either be held in check or be quite vocal about its know-it-allism, because it is such a master in its own localised, disconnected arena. So the point here is that shapes are the fundamental. Before it becomes character, before it becomes number, before it becomes anything else, it's just a raw shape. So if the shapes that you were taught were wrong, then everything that is built above that, all number, all character, have the same flaws built in. And there's no getting away from it. And it is because you've been taught something that is 1 or 2 levels removed from the natural environment. Whereas if you are taught from and understand the natural shapes, then your mind is integrated with its environment. From minute 1, it's integrated with it. So for us to heal the mind, all we have to do is learn what the real shapes are, watch for how they work, and start the organic process of healing the mind. And it is organic. It will work by itself over a period of time. So we've already said a line is the basic shape. We're going to say circle. The reason I'm not going to say circle is because actually circles like this only exist in one place in nature. All other circles in nature are like this. Every one of them has a present or implied point in the middle. Every one of them, apart from a bubble. A bubble is the only circle in nature that has no point. It's pointless. The Western mind, and everybody who's been taught the shape matrix as being basic, is living in a bubble. It's unable. It's like a maze. It will throw itself against it frantically, doing whatever it can. And so we learn coping strategies to still the mind. The mind is desperately hungry to seek integration. It wants to be on board. But the point is, we've been given the wrong framework. And this is just the shapes. We've not looked at the flaws that are the things that are wrong with the alphabet. Okay, so these two shapes are actually the age-old symbols of masculine and feminine. The male and female. This is also used as the monad. If anybody knows what monad is. This is the symbol of the monad. Okay, but this is the ancient symbol, as old as it gets, masculine and feminine. Okay? Now, when the masculine and the feminine are working together in balance, complementary balance, you have the third basic shape. Can anybody guess what the third basic shape is? The true natural shape. You'll know it, it's just whether you get the reference over here.
Yin and yang.
Nope. Good guess though. The third basic shape is, I'll do it in yellow, the spiral, which is what happens when the masculine and the feminine are working together. You have the circle that cannot complete itself and the line that arcs. We live in a spiral galaxy with spiral water patterns, spiral cloud formations, everything spiral. Spiral leaf patterns, if you look at leaves when they're growing, look at spirals in nature, shells, they're all spirals because gender is in balance everywhere in the solar system except our species. Except our species. It's the only one that's imbalanced, and where everybody's wrapped up in this crazy gender war idea that was just a mental program to turn men and women against each other. Now here, what we're going to cover today as well is the myth of patriarchy. Okay, it is a total myth. Right, could I ask you to come forward for a second? If that's going to just use you, if that's all right. Yeah, don't worry. It's just you'll be able to go back to your seat in a moment. I know some of you, that might be shocking to some of you to say that patriarchy is a myth, but let me just show you just now. If I just draw your attention to what this chap's wearing. Thank you. What's your name?
Ashram.
Ashram. Pleased to meet you. Okay, what's this called, folks?
Collar.
It's a what? A collar. Okay. And what's this here? Cuffs. And what does he wear if he's formal? Tie. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Common attire, collar, cuffs and a tie. Okay? Collar, cuffs and a tie. Who wears collar, cuffs and a tie?
Priest wears it.
Priest wears a collar. That's another one. Yeah, they're all collared. The point is we live in a graded collar system. Blue collar, white collar, dog collar. All your police are known by their collar number.
A prisoner.
A prisoner. Thank you. We have forgotten what they are. They no longer need to be made of metal because the mental conditioning is so good. We even think those that with the fanciest collars are the highest. And yet even the most powerful men in our culture are collared and cuffed in public. How is that patriarchy? You don't get taught this shape, which is the masculine shape. It's completely obfuscated. You get the one that's closest to the feminine. And we'll cover why that is right now. Can anybody tell me the difference between this shape and that one? And not only that one, but also this one, and all other shapes, all of them. What is the exception? What is different about the line and the spiral that is not true for any of the others? Sorry? They don't end. These two. Which ones do you mean? The line and the circle, the spiral don't end?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't end. I mean, people could say the circles go around endlessly as well, but no, you're right, they don't end. The main thing about them is that they end up somewhere different from where they started. They end up somewhere different from where they started. That is a massive point. Because that means that these two are the shapes that bring change. These are shapes of state or form. They're feminine shapes. They have a place, but the point is that these are shapes of state. So you get taught the shapes of state, but not the ones with change. Now you're all agents of change. The point here is you don't get taught about the line, because if you understand how to draw lines properly, then you can bring change properly. Yes?
The first symbol, so that's the male symbol.
Yeah.
And the second symbol is the female symbol.
Yes.
There's something about those two symbols that signifies something to me.
Go on.
Might not be to you guys, but I see those as, I've seen these two symbols being used previously to describe sex organs,
Yeah.
male and female sex organs,
Yeah.
because the penis is like
A line. Exactly.
It's a circle.
Exactly. That is exactly it. That is exactly it. The point, thank you for that. The point is that substantial mind is symbolic and pictographic. So the Oxford English Dictionary states that old alphabets are pictographic because they're pictures. Modern alphabets are symbolic, but it doesn't tell you what they're symbols of. Now I do a whole course on decoding the alphabet that shows they're actually still pictures. We just don't know what they're pictures of. But there's no point in going on to decoding the alphabet until we get the core shapes right. So actually these are both. Yeah? Yeah. Well, this is a breast, it's a cell, it's an egg, it's a sun, it's a planet, it's everywhere. All forms in nature are this because it's a shape of form. It's a shape of form, that's it. The point is this is about this is about being and acceptance. Okay? So this is when we're in the receptive. We accept the perfection of the now. So the reason you've been taught this shape is to make you accept the perfection of the now. And that's what all modern spirituality has all been sanitized to all of that. You'll find every school everywhere on the planet is all like BBB, accept the perfection of the now. Just close your eyes, switch it all off, it's fine, look, it's all gone. You can tap into your connection to source right now and look, it's all okay, isn't it? And for a moment you can get that balm and you're like, yeah, it is. Whew, that was a good bit of medication. But it was a coping strategy as well. The point here is, this is why all mammal fetuses are female first. And it's because we must all be accepting first. We must all be receptive to the penetrations of the world first. But once we have accepted the perfection of the now, and once we have accepted and received the penetrations of the world, when the moment comes that you're like, I have a point to make. That is the masculine in you, seeking to bring change. And that is why gender is also about communication. You not learning these means that you don't get all the higher correspondences that these lead to. We'll talk about a few of them today. One of them is communication. So for example, in communication, it is actually a function of gender. It's about transmission and reception. So if you don't understand point making and receptivity, most conversations around the table these days, everybody's waiting to make their point. And nobody's waiting to listen. And if you realise actually in the conversation, gender changes all the time. Whoever's making the point is in the masculine role, so therefore the others need to flip into the feminine to be receptive to that. That is what allows conception to take place. Conception. We even use a gender-related term for the reception and birthing of ideas. Because it is gender, it's a function of gender. So anyway, coming back to the line here, the reason you don't get taught about the line and the reason the men are collared is because your change energy is collared to maintain a state. Your change energy, your creativity, your vitality, your dexterity is being used to maintain a state. So if you want to pour that vitality and creativity into maintaining whatever any company just now is doing, you'll be supported, you'll be backed up, you'll get a salaried job, all the rest of it. But if you want to make a point, and if you want to bring change to the state, then you will not be supported, you'll not be helped. Because change and state will naturally resist each other, and they always will. It's a natural process. That's what yin and yang represent, gender tension, beautifully. Because they're not 50 shades of grey. There's a clear line there defining the boundary between the two, and when you get really close to where that line is, you'll experience gender tension. Most of you will have had that in a relationship where you might have had tension rising over sharing a point, and it builds and you're thinking that they're not seeing your point, and you're disagreeing, and then you later find out that you were both talking about the same thing, just from a different point of view. And that's but the feeling of gender tension. So the key point about understanding how to draw lines, though, is that is how you ward yourself. That's how you take care of yourself, by drawing lines over what you won't accept anymore. So we have been taught that discrimination is a bad thing. It is not. Only when it's on a negative, damaging pole. Its positive aspect is discernment. And discernment involves non-acceptance. I've really only got 10 minutes. I've only just started, oh my goodness. So, discernment is about drawing healthy lines. So, the key here is I want you to go away from here today and look at how lines and circles are used. Look at how they're used around you. Because if you guys can understand, all of you are already learning to draw lines. All the feelings that you're getting going on as you're trying to express yourself in a world that isn't perhaps always a willing recipient, that is you learning to draw lines. You're learning to make points and draw lines. That is exactly what it's about non-acceptance anymore. It is the masculine energy. And really what happens is when these two work together in balance, you get this wonderful spiral dynamic that will manifest in your life. It just happens, that's the point. The key that I want you to take away from this today, though, is that by just allowing this to sink into your mind, to understand that actually, because look around, you've been told that lines don't exist in nature. They do. They're all over the place in nature. Lines are in nature, this type of circle is in nature, and these spirals are all over nature as well. When your mind can connect with that integral nature, it can begin to integrate itself and pour itself into felt experience. Okay. This is about changing state. Now, what happens when there is a change in state out in the world? Well, how do you know there's been a change in state?
I can give you an example. When I look at the male and female again, that also represents something else to me. When I'm out in the world and I have to abide by the laws of man, although I might not want to all the time, the line, if you think when we're put into a queue, we have to wait in a queue in a building. Yeah? If you're in a queue, you put all those people in that queue, they're in a line. When you leave that building, you want to get out, you have to go through a process where you don't come in the same way, you don't come out the same way you went in. So you actually make a circle to leave, whether it is again that transition as you use.
It is, what you're describing there is actually, it's about alignment and the power of alignment. Alignment, the state of being aligned. This has got a G in it, but that, we could cover that another time. But alignment is a very powerful phrase. So, and thank you for sharing the point, it's a very experiential way that lines are actually used, absolutely. But how do you know, so just say there was a coup in Russia or something like that, or a coup in Mozambique or something. How would you know there was a change in state? What's the mark? Thank you. That's exactly right. There is a change in the ruler. A change in the ruler. What does a ruler do when I'm now no longer talking about a person, but I'm talking about a bit of wood? What does a ruler do? And? Draws a line. The ruler draws the line. The ruler measures what is valuable and what is worthwhile and what is not. Everybody who was given this triangle, circle, square thing has a broken ruler. You will have two rulers in you, the internal and external ruler. If you seek valuation and validation from those around you, you still have a broken internal ruler, which is that you do not know the worth of your own perspective and experience, so you seek to have it validated by others. or when we go, you know, the old buzz off the Facebook likes, or going to seek accreditation from others for what it is that you do that comes from within. The number of people that I know that have discovered something within themselves and they've then got accreditation in something else is staggering to me, staggering. But that's an issue of a ruler. So they know they've got something, but they need to go get a tick from a bunch of others so that they can feel the validation of it. It's a common wound. It's not a problem, it's just about recognising what is. The thing about the ruler is the two functions of measurement and drawing the line are massive. Because this is not about small questions, it's about big questions. The big questions of, what is it a human being should be doing to feel valued as a human being? What do I need to do to feel like I'm fulfilling my role in the cosmos so that I feel like I have a point? All of these are expressions of the point. The point is the originator, it's the key point. Even the flower of life symbol you see all over the place is missing the point. It's forgotten the point. The point is the anchor thing that connects us all. Why are you here? What's the point? You know, a repaired connection with your ruler, and all of you will have tasted it at some point. You know, it's not a flaky thing. You're either connected with the internal ruler, where you're sure of your worth, you're sure of your place, you know what's going on, you know you're in process and you're underway. That is the connection with the internal ruler. Everything else is external ruler, and there's sovereignty issues. What it means is that you can't actually take care of yourself at a boundary. You can't draw a line around yourself to take care of your personal state. If you're vulnerable to the thought fluctuations of others, and you're vulnerable to others coming in at you, then it means that there's a problem with your ruler maintaining the safe boundary. So, the thing is though, when you understand the line as a shape, it then becomes character and number. What is this as a character? I is the ruler. I. We've been taught to be subsumed into a collective we, waiting around for enough of we to get together before anything happens. That is a cancerous disease. It's a cancer of cells waiting to convert everybody else into a spiritual being or something like that. That's not it. That's not how life works. My kidneys aren't waiting around for my brain to morph into one of them. And my lungs aren't sitting having a go at the job my adrenals are doing. But that's what we do. We sit and poke fingers at each other to see what those people are doing over there. Blah, 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 blah. You know? This is what we do. It's not the right way. The first thing most of us need to do is to reconnect with a sense of I-ness. I. Speak from I. You know, how many of you, when you're speaking, do you talk about, you know when you... Right? Don't project your you onto me. Speak from I, and notice the difference in what it is that you're saying when you speak as I. Because at first you'll allude to I. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up. At first you'll allude to I, but then you will become I. And as you become I, you are then able to take care of your personal state, and all of the fluctuations, the variations that are going on in the world will affect you less. Then you're a useful worker. Because then you're able to go into spaces and be effective rather than be broken by it. How many of you will go into environments like the supermarket or the shopping centre, or go into places to try and make your point and you come out exhausted, fatigued, drained? And it's because you're not able to maintain your state, and all this stuff is coming in at you, and it's just hitting you, boom, 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 and then you've got to deal with it later in process. So just to finish, so I becomes the ruler. I. As a number though, it also becomes, so these are the lines of the sovereign. The first line is non-acceptance, and that it's okay to not accept. It's not a disease. Just because we're all one, doesn't mean I want you sitting on my lap for infinity. Okay? Space is the great healer. Space is the thing that allows all branches of life to exist. And it's a case of, if me and a other being that wants to live in a particular way really don't resonate, then let's let electromagnetism take care of it, and they can end up on the other end of the cosmos. Because space is huge. It's big enough for us all. It keeps getting bigger to make room for us all. So let's just go with that and allow it to be the case. I'm no longer a convergent evolutionary theorist. I used to be for years. I used to believe we were all going to be back to one as the next step. Rubbish, there's no evidence for that. I'm now a divergent evolutionary theorist. I think what's happening is there's pockets of magnetic states forming up that will allow for many stories to unfold. But if you don't take responsibility for your I-ness and align with the correct state that you're interested in being a part of, then when divergence happens, if it happens, you could find yourself ending up somewhere you don't really want to be. So the final aspect of I, so the first line of the sovereign is I, non-acceptance, self-definition. I know where I end and you begin. I know what's mine and I know what's not. I can take care of my boundary. Most people are working on that level. The second line is, so that's just, the first line is just of non-acceptance. Second line is of I-ness. That is the royal I-ness. The royal I-ness within you. Okay, you've all got it. It's this point right here in the middle. If you imagine that this shape is also a torus viewed from above. Okay, it's a torus. You know what a torus is? A donut thing? Yeah. So all people's attention is on the form bit, which is all the light bit. They're forgetting the big vortex of seeming black hole, but it's not a black hole with an H, it's a black hole with a W. The black hole at the heart of it all. That is where your I is. And so then when you realise that, you can then enter the numeric aspect of the I or the line, which is about being the royal one and understanding what it is to speak as the royal one. And these are all factors of sovereignty. And you'll even hear them talking about sovereignty being given away, like with the Ireland thing that happened recently. But it's already happened in this country years ago. We gave sovereignty away. But it needs to be reclaimed for you to develop the effectiveness that you're looking for. And it just begins with the basic shapes. So, I am going to wrap up. I've got one last thing to give you before I go. I would like to mention my website, so you can get me on, I'll write it on the board here. So you can get me on masterdeojee.com. That is master in relation to public servants, because I do some stuff on law as well. So, and I do work on gender, relating, sound, language, spelling, and a few other things as well. You can read that. I do online courses on repairing the ruler, and I'll be doing another one on the evolution of language in English as well. It'll be running later this year. But for now, I just want to give you one thing to do with helping your mind heal itself so that it can run in the correct tracks that it was designed for. And that is to do with, so the other way that you'll also see I written is like that with two, you know, something like this. Don't you? You'll see it like that. So I didn't talk about L as well, but we don't have time. So anyway, normally what you'll see is you learn the alphabet on a lined page like that. The alphabet that you've been taught is fallen. It has fallen characters in it. And I would suggest to you that actually the fallen characters are the doorway into your mind for things that you don't want there. So if you are a person that writes where any of your characters go beneath the line here, then you've got a problem. And you should probably sort it out. I have fonts, by the way, that have been cleaned of this. So if you want any fonts, come and see me afterwards. But basically, characters are all supposed to be between the lines. I don't have time to tell you why today. But the point is that things like the G should be up here, the Y should be up here, the J should be up there, so should the P and the Q. Because these are all about the upliftment of character. So the definition and understanding the difference between little I and big I. And if all your uplifted characters have fallen, then I will guarantee that you have confusion between little I and big I. And you won't know quite what's higher you, what's lower you. There'll be a muddle going on there. And it is because of the alphabet that you're using. I'll give you an experiment. 30 days writing with no characters dropping below the line, and then try to go back. And in 5 years of doing this, nobody has ever gone back. But I invite you to do it yourself. Yes?
What about the G and the Y, the small G and the small Y?
That is a small G, and that is a small Y. Yeah. They are uplifted.
Okay.
So these have been uplifted. They're called descenders. There should be no descenders. Where are they descending to? There should be no descenders. None. In old books on graphology, they've got some interesting stuff to say about this realm down here, but I'm not going to go into that just now because we don't have any time. I'm just giving you an experiment, that's it. So I want to thank you for your time and attention. I've got some CDs and booklets up at the back if anybody wants to see me. Website's there, or you can come and give me your email and enrol on one of the courses, or just to get a mailing list or something. But thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.